What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros with a 12-team full PPR mock. We have got the 9th pick overall. As far as the roster is concerned, 1 quarterback, 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and 5 bench spots. So same as usual. Now, with that being said, let's get right into it. And while we wait for this thing to load, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, let us hear it in the comments section, along with any other questions you guys might have. We will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you want at a great value. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into this thing. And here, I actually want to go with a specific strategy, if you will. Now, we'll see whether it pans out or not, but I know a lot of people like to go wide receiver with their first pick, especially right around this range. Well, let's start out with that. Let's go wide receiver here with that first pick, even though, in my personal opinion, if you're sitting at the 9th spot in a full PPR draft and the board looks the way that it does, which, to recap it, McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, the first 3 picks. Then Devontae Adams, a reach. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Zeke, and Nick Chubb. In my opinion, here there's a couple of running backs that are standard-based. Well, I guess one, Nick Chubb, that is being drafted way too early. I think Saquon Barkley right now is a little bit too risky, so I wouldn't have him as a top 6 guy. And Devontae Adams shouldn't be drafted in the top 4. But other than that, this is, I would say, pretty normal. Now, if I'm just going best player available, I'm taking Austin Eckler 10 times out of 10 here. But since I want to see how this goes and, maybe be in the shoes, be in that situation that some of you might put yourself in come draft day, taking a wide receiver around this spot, let's see what happens and play out that scenario. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to take another wide receiver in the 2nd round. That'd be pretty ballsy, and that'd be on the verge of doing like a 0 running back strategy. But that's also a possibility. Let's see what happens here, and then we'll decide in the moment in the 2nd round. So here, I'm just going to go and take Tyreek Hill. I'm going for the upside. Again, whether you take Tyreek, whether you take Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, I can't fault you with either one of those picks. I think they're all great tier 1 options. Now, looking at the big board, I think I answered my own question as far as what I'm going to do, because after a selection of Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, perfect. That's exactly what it should have been. Again, I would have taken Eckler or Jones at that 9th spot if I was doing a prototypical draft. But again, I'm just trying to see what happens if you go wide receiver early and potentially wide receiver in the 2nd round, because Travis Kelce went with the last pick in the 1st round, then Jonathan Taylor, followed by Joe Mixon, DeAndre Hopkins next. So that means Stephon Diggs is still available for us. In my opinion, he should have been selected as the 3rd or 2nd overall wide receiver. So let's end his fall, and we're going to pick him right here. And yeah, that means we're going to take 2 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds. And look, if you've listened to what I've said, the advice I've given, I'm very against this. But again, despite what I say, I know people are going to be in this situation. I know that people are going to decide the value is too good. I want to get these 2 wide receivers, then I'll figure it out at running back. So, after having done so many mock drafts, let's see what happens if I put myself in that situation as well. Preferably, I would not be doing this in a actual draft. This would be like the last case scenario, but in this case, it's a mock draft, so we can get a little bit crazy and see what happens and see if we can get lucky, because there's some running backs in the 3rd, 4th round that I think we can consider and that can potentially salvage the situation, but it has to fall literally perfectly for us. So looking at the picks after Stephon Diggs, I will say we get a little bit lucky because we see Patrick Mahomes being drafted in the middle of the 2nd round. Even though I don't think this is going to happen often, in home leagues, it will happen from time to time. Antonio Gibson, then Najee Harris, followed by a run on some pass catchers. Metcalf, Brown, Calvin Ridley, tremendous value on Ridley, followed by Clyde Edwards-Helaire, then Darren Waller to end out that 2nd round. And then the 3rd round as follows. Justin Jefferson, George Kittle, so the top 3 tight ends are off the board. Then Keenan Allen, Josh Allen. Again, these quarterbacks going a little bit too early for my liking. Afterwards, you see Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson, and CeeDee Lamb. And finally, Josh Jacobs with the 8th pick in the 3rd round. So that leaves us, I would actually say, with a couple of really good options at running back. Like I said, I think there's something to be said about getting lucky here. Usually, I would say, Mahomes and Josh Allen might not be selected this early on, so that pushes some guys down the board. Same with George Kittle, same with Josh Jacobs. I don't know how you have Josh Jacobs ranked ahead of a Chris Carson, ahead of a James Robinson, and maybe I kind of showed my hand here a little bit, but I'm going to go with Chris Carson. To me, he's by far, in a way, kind of one of these top running backs left, like him and James Robinson on that kind of level. DeAndre Swift just way too risky, and considering that I don't have a single running back yet, I think that you have to go with one of the safer running back choices. To me, that is Chris Carson. So welcome to the team, Carson. If James Robinson makes it back to us here, I would be very, very happy, but I think we're probably going to get sniped. We'll see. Let's see what happened here on the draft board. So after we went Chris Carson, Mike Davis goes off the board, followed by Robert Woods, Julio Jones, Montgomery, Lockett, and Deontay Johnson. So that means now that, yes, DeAndre Swift is still available, but I continue to maintain the same, viewpoint on this. I think DeAndre Swift is still too risky. Comparing him to James Robinson, I would rather go with Robinson. Obviously he has a lot less competition without ETN. Yes, Carlos Hyde is there, and he's got the connection with Urban Meyer, but I just don't think Carlos Hyde is in the same stratosphere, like at all, as James Robinson. So, I'm going Robinson here. The hell with the rankings that show DeAndre Swift higher. DeAndre Swift is higher in full PPR if he is healthy, and if Jamal Williams isn't actually going to be as involved as the head coaches say. So basically, there's too many ifs here for DeAndre Swift. I'm going James Robinson. So we get Chris Carson and James Robinson as starting running backs. And considering we went with, Diggs and Tyreek, I'd actually be all right with this type of start. Like, to me, I kind of did this as a goof, as a joke, starting out this way. But I think this worked out like literally in the best possible scenario that you could hope for in terms of how one of these drafts progresses. If you go wide receiver, back to back, keep in mind, this is a 12-team league. So I would say that makes this, potentially even more impressive. And right now, let's again take a look at what's taken place. And you see, after our selection of James Robinson, a couple wide receivers off the board. Mike Evans, Godwin, Amari Cooper, tremendous value on Cooper. Then goes DeAndre Swift, Cooper Kupp, Miles Sanders, Thielen, Brendan Ayuk, DJ Moore, Jamar Chase. Too early for Jamar Chase, in my opinion. Kyler Murray, so another one of those top-end running backs. Damian Harris kind of boosted up with Sony Michel out, but too early, again, I would say, considering this is full PPR. There goes Lamar Jackson. All those top quarterbacks are gone. Mark Andrews, Juju, and Kyle Pitts. So here, we could potentially go one of two ways. I would say TJ Hawkinson is very tempting. Another name here to potentially get even more running backs is Darrell Henderson or Myles Gaskin or Gus Edwards. Now, the way I'm looking at it, I think that, let's look at the draft board. I think that TJ Hawkinson is a lot more likely to get selected. So right now, I should mention, I think we've gotten to the point where we've kind of balanced out the roster. Like, we've got two running backs, so we don't necessarily have to, immediately take another one, even though getting Myles Gaskin, I think right now would be great. I think right now we can afford to just go best player overall. And since, I've done a very good job at wide receiver and an all right job at running back, I'm just going to take the top player overall on my board. That is TJ Hawkinson. And then see if a Henderson, an Edwards, or a Gaskin, or maybe even a Hunt can fall to us. And if that happens, I would be very, very happy. So let's go with TJ Hawkinson here and then see what happens at running back. We got to wait 6 picks. Maybe we get lucky, maybe we don't. I'm not sure. But let's take a look and be the judge of it. Because after our pick of TJ Hawkinson, you see T. Higgins, Myles Gaskin, Prescott, Claypool, Herbert, and Aaron Rodgers. So actually a run on quarterbacks, which really, really helps us. Myles Gaskin, he was the guy that I was hoping we would get. I'm not going to lie to you. But that means that we've got a couple options here. Darrell Henderson, Kareem Hunt, Gus Edwards. So this is a little bit tough in terms of breaking this down in who you have higher. But Gus Edwards, I know he's been a hot name as of late with J.K. Dobbins on IR. But I just don't see the passing upside with Edwards. Like, all the concerns I had with Dobbins, I have with Edwards here. I wouldn't be shocked if the Ravens add another body, but as long as Lamar Jackson is there, I just think that severely caps the upside of whoever the running back is. Then you've got Kareem Hunt and Darrell Henderson. So you got to answer the question, do you think Sony Michel being traded for by the Rams is just going to absolutely destroy Darrell Henderson's value? I personally don't. I do think it limits his upside, no question about it. But like, how much of that was maybe because the Rams wanted to get depth? Maybe they were worried about that thumb, and they just wanted some insurance. They wanted a guy that had some experience backing up Darrell Henderson. So honestly, I tend to think it was more that than anything else. I still think Darrell Henderson has like low to mid-level RB2 type of potential. And Kareem Hunt, yes, he's solid in full PPR options, but like as long as Nick Chubb is there, I can't really trust Kareem Hunt. I think Henderson's upside is a lot bigger. So basically, we're taking Darrell Henderson here, and he's going to be our flex position. And I feel pretty good about, even though we waited for running backs, the 3 running backs that we got, yes, I would say like none of them are, you could argue, like top end running backs. But I think like Chris Carson potentially could be a top 12 running back, James Robinson as well. So they've got upside. And then Darrell Henderson, I think, was just a great value pick. So looking at the draft board again, I'd say this is actually breaking very favorably for us. Now, keep in mind, this is via FantasyPros, and you've got some built-in variability with these bots drafting. So I do think we have to consider that and consider the fact that we're probably getting a little bit lucky here. After our Darrell Henderson pick, you see Kenny Golladay, Russell Wilson, Odell, Michael Thomas, Chase Edmonds. I don't think, obviously, Michael Thomas should be a 6th-round pick. Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, Javonte Williams, Brady, Stafford, Boyd, Landry, Robbie Anderson, Jalen Hurts, and then Courtland Sutton and DJ Shark. So at this point, everybody has a quarterback other than us, and that means we can just take it easy on the quarterback and just continue to load up on good players. And here, I'm looking again at running back. Why not get even more running back depth? Kareem Hunt or Gus Edwards? We got to answer that exact same question that we did last time. Last time was a little bit easier because Darrell Henderson, in my opinion, was like the clear-cut choice. Here, if I'm going for upside, Gus Edwards right now is the RB1 for the Baltimore Ravens, and Kareem Hunt is the backup to Nick Chubb. Yes, Kareem Hunt is going to get pass-catching work, but I think Gus Edwards has the higher upside. And picking this late, I'm going to go with the higher upside. I'm going to go with Gus Edwards. Like I said before, I'm not expecting what a lot of people here are with Gus Edwards. Like, I don't think he's going to be an RB1. I don't think you should automatically draft him where you drafted J.K. Dobbins. But here in the 7th round, towards the end of the 7th round, yeah, I'll take that chance on Gus Edwards. So welcome to the team. In fact, he's a bench player for us, which I would say is really, really valuable. And here you even see it. We got very good value on him. So looking at our other options, I am a little bit bummed out because Antonio Brown was selected, and I was really kind of hoping we can add him to the squad, but that won't be the case here. So other options, Deebo Samuel, I think there's a lot of targets there in San Francisco. Marvin Jones is somebody that I like. Darnell Mooney, also somebody that I like, as is Marcus Callaway. What I'm really kind of curious about at this point in time is if we wait on Marquez Callaway, can we get him in the next round? Maybe I go like a Darnell Mooney here and, afterwards take a chance on Marquez Callaway being there. I think that's what I'm going to do. So let's go with Mooney here. And there's other wide receivers that I really like also a Russell Gage. In fact, I actually have Russell Gage just plain and simple ranked higher than Darnell Mooney. So even though, the rankings show him being lower on this board, I'm going to draft him first. I think he's a relatively safe pick, and people are just undervaluing him. So I'm just going to nab Russell Gage, and let's quickly show you our roster. We do need some wide receiver depth. At this point, we've done a pretty good job bouncing back for running backs. We've got Tyreek and Stephon Diggs, so tremendous job there, but we need to add some secondary pieces. So let's add Russell Gage to begin with. I'm happy with that. And then see what's available for us in the next round to see if some of the guys that we really liked are off the board or not. And, kind of just waiting for this to play out. Let's look at the draft board again. You see After Russell Gage, Mostert, Debo, Fournette, Laviska, there goes Marvin Jones, Beasley, Melvin Gordon, Sermon, Michael Carter, a run on tight ends in the 9th round. Logan Thomas, Noah Fant, Robert Tonyan, Michael Gallup, Dallas Goedert, then Jalen Waddle. So we get to the 9th round. Darnell Mooney is still there. Marquez Callaway, still there. We do need a quarterback, but again, since all these teams have already a starting quarterback, I'm not really all that worried about it. Honestly, here, I think the best value is Ronald Jones, but we've got so many like running backs on the team. I almost feel like we have to go wide receiver. The question is, again, do we want to go with kind of a dart throw in Marquez Callaway, or do we want to go with a guy that'll probably give us some more consistency in a Ronald Jones, even though we're stacked at the running back position? You know what? Rich keep getting richer. We're going running back here, and then we're going to gamble on Marquez Callaway in the 10th round, see if it happens or not. Let's see what happens. Ronald Jones, Higbee, Jonnu, Zach Moss, David Johnson. We got a little bit tongue-tied here. Jamal Williams was also still on the board. A great value pick, in my opinion, ranked way too low. So, yeah, we saw Higbee, Jonnu, Zach Moss, David Johnson, James Conner, and Jamal Williams. So Marquez Callaway makes it to us. Darnell Mooney is also on the board, but I'm going to just, kind of go for the bigger dart throw here in Marquez Callaway. I think he could be a big-time beneficiary, adding another wide receiver. So let's add Marquez Callaway, and then we're going to add a quarterback here to, potentially kind of just round this thing out. I think we've got like 2 more selections to make, or maybe 3. We'll see. Let's see what our roster looks like again. So looking at our roster, yeah, we've got 2 more selections to make, a quarterback, and then just our last, depth piece, bench piece. So right now, looking at the cheat sheet, looking at our quarterbacks, I really like a Ryan Tannehill and a Joe Burrow. I think both those guys, honestly, I might just select both of them right here, kind of as, having 2 options if one of them kind of struggles. I like the upside of Burrow, so I'll take Ryan Tannehill first and then probably Joe Burrow as that second quarterback and conclude it there. So that'll be the end of that. And before I make the selection, I actually, look, as much as I was just kind of joking around to begin with, going Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs, it actually worked out tremendously. In fact, I think this is the best case scenario. Like if you decide to go wide receiver in a 12-team league, I think like you would be praying for this type of outcome. Like if this was my team, I would be very, very happy with it. From that perspective, the fact that we went wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, I give this an A grade. Honestly, I really, really do. But the drawback, in my opinion, a lot of things broke our way. We were drafting on FantasyPros, so some of that built-in variability worked in our favor. We get an A- pick, and I agree with that. I said I think this is an A roster. We got a difference maker at tight end. We literally have 2 of the top 3 wide receivers. We got so lucky with Chris Carson, James Robinson, Edwards, Henderson, Ronald Jones. And then we were able to get 2 quarterbacks in Tannehill and Burrow and Marquez Callaway and Gage. I really like the way this roster worked out. Hopefully you guys can get something out of this. Again, I don't want you to think this is always how it's going to go. But maybe, as a best case scenario, you can use this as kind of judgment. But at the same time, know that it can go quickly. It could have gone in a very different direction. Like if Chris Carson wasn't there, we got lucky. If Chris Carson and James Robinson weren't there, this would be a very, very different roster. So I can definitely acknowledge that. But hey, again, let me hear it in the comment section, along with any other questions you guys might have. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in future videos.